Hello and welcome back to the Ultra Films YouTube channel. My name is Evan. I am the producer over here at this show. Today we are talking about Miss Marvel, the new Disney Plus series, and its first episode that just dropped. It is titled Generation Y, a little nod towards, the younger generation that's being called Generation Y as of now. So this is younger kids in this age range, and the show is definitely geared towards younger kids. However, I still enjoyed it, and I think it is a very enjoyable show. The critics seem to agree. It has a 96% rating on Rotten Tomatoes as of opening, day sort of thing. I am sure that's probably dropped. I have heard reports that it has been review bombed by people who don't necessarily like the show or have issues with certain heritage issues with Kamala, and I don't really tolerate or think that behavior is acceptable, and I wish there was a way they could take those reviews off of the platform because they're clearly hate. But then again, it's an open platform for people to share their opinions, so it is what it is. But people do love this show, I think. And I definitely am one of those people. So, actually, weirdly enough, my favorite part of the whole episode is actually the intro and the little teeny tiny visual cues you get through the entire episode. So, the opening intro is basically a comic story that either Kamala has drawn or digitally made, and she made it into a YouTube video. It looks like she puts a lot of actual effort into making the videos and making these little comic strips to tell her story, and they don't get a ton of views. So she runs a YouTube channel called Sloth Baby Productions, and the intro to the show is basically her explaining the events of what's going down with the Avengers, and her wanting to go to Avenger Con, and her love for Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel. The other thing that I really love about this intro is they straight up address the issues that people have with Captain Marvel through Miss Marvel. She addresses them in this comic story, and also in conversation about, she I think the line was something along the lines of that, maybe she disappeared, and maybe you think that she just abandoned the rest of the human race, but she's off, saving the universe and stuff. So she must have some good excuse, and I think that's funny. And I also think that it has something to do with Secret Invasion and what's going on with the Skrulls, Nick Fury, and space, more specifically. So it's all going to be valid, but I think it is funny that the showrunners or Kevin Feige or whoever said, hey, we should really address this. It'd be funny. It was. Then at the end of her video, she talks about how her next video is going to be how she thinks Thor is secretly a gamer, which we know he is after watching Endgame. He is obsessed with defeating new Master 69. But overall, that intro was incredible. I don't even know if it reminds me of anything in particular, other than something I don't know, Ned's Declassified, or any of those Nickelodeon shows where they do a little intro with a comic story, or piece together hey, this is it's almost like a recap for some of those shows back when I was a kid, where they do a recap, showing events from that season or those few episodes before, to explain it's even in anime where they show a little bit of what happened last time, and you get the to be continued at the end. It's kind of the storytelling feels a lot like younger stuff like that, and it's a little bit weirdly nostalgic, even though it doesn't remind me of anything in particular. So it was just really cool. It made me feel kind of like a kid again. And you also can even as an adult, I mean, maybe it's because I'm still sort of young and I still remember those years pretty vividly, but like you can relate to her as a character and go, wow, yeah, no, my parents were not as drastic as hers, but my parents were super annoying, and I had all these issues that I thought were the end of the world sort of things, and I wanted their approval so bad, and I couldn't get it. Those sort of themes all ride through the entire episode. But anyways, so it's clear that Kamala is a big old daydreamer. She does it constantly, obsessively, just in her own head, trying to figure out what she wants to be, but like not in a regular sense, like I want to go do this job, I want to go do this thing, just I want to be a hero sort of mentality. And I also kind of relate to that weirdly, because when I was in high school, I wanted to be the Green Arrow, and I literally told myself, yeah, I'm gonna get really good at archery, and it's so silly, and you think it'll never apply, and now here I am sitting doing reviews of channels or of shows on this channel. So in my own way, I'm still connected to that, and so that's really cool. So yeah, she's this big old daydreamer. She talks to her friend Bruno in the next scene as they're walking around school, and they're talking about how Kamala has a Carol Danvers cosplay for a costume contest at the very first Avengers Con. This is an event that's been set up by some third party to celebrate the Avengers, sell merch, have booths, anything you'd see at a regular Comic-Con. This is like the real life counterpart now in the MCU's like real day-to-day life. They're starting to do those. So if you think like San Diego Comic-Con, obviously it's not San Diego Comic-Con because it's in Jersey, but if you go, whatever Jersey's Comic-Con is called, I know that San Diego Comic-Con trademarked their thing, so you can't call it Comic-Con without getting sued. But whatever con you have in Jersey, that's essentially what's going down in real life sort of thing. Excuse me. Mr. Wilson is the principal at her school. He's the one who's her mother and father in the opening scene as she's getting ready for school kind of address that she has this daydreaming issue. But then again, Mr. Wilson, when she gets called to the office to talk about her future and what she wants to do and her grades and XYZ, he's such a fun character. I love him because he's just like a nice guy principal, cares about his students actually, it seems like, and wants the best for them, and isn't like pressuring or over demanding of the students. Just a very chill guy, somebody you can actually talk to, which was really nice to see. Like, I don't know if that's every single principal, but that's kind of like what you want out of a principal. So then Kamala's nanny sends a package for her with a bunch of knickknacks, pallywags, I don't know, just a bunch of random knickknacks. And inside of that are these bracelets, and they have some weird inscriptions on them, and her mother takes them away and tells her brother, Amir, to go and take those up into the attic, that none of it's really important, it's just a distraction, don't worry about it. And all the while, her and Bruno are talking about what the finishing touch on her costume could be, because you do have to, for the contest, add a personal touch to it, something that's a personal, like reference or something to explain who you kind of are. And so Kamala ultimately decides, when she can't figure it out for like weeks on end, she goes, oh, these bracelets would be perfect. Then some other things I want to talk about. This isn't a great breakdown. This is just mostly me jumping all over the place, to be fair. There's a lot of really cool things that I liked, and I wanted to get that out of the way. Then there's like the little shopping montage. Kamala gets dragged out by her mother to go out shopping, and then there's a bunch of little shots randomly of the streets and the marketplace, and Kamala carrying all these bags for her mother, and you actually see a shot of the 10 rings, which I think are very, very related to the bracelets. I want to do a whole video on that potentially. I'm sure everyone else has. This inscriptions on the bracelets seem very similar to the 10 rings, and the fact that they're going to show them like that and tease it is insane. This show in one episode has shown more connections to the rest of the MCU, mostly because she's a super fan of the Avengers, but it's shown more connections and tie-ins to the MCU in like 5 minutes than anything you got in Moon Knight. So it's such a drastic difference from like super connected fan service sort of stuff because she's a super fan versus Moon Knight, which was this like self-contained mental health sort of story. And I love how, I just want to say this because this isn't part of the breakdown again, but like I love how drastic Marvel can be with those two sorts of things. And even though this is like more of a child fan service sort of show, it's still really good. Then while they're out running errands, Kamala's getting fitted for a dress, I believe, and it's like a ceremonial Pakistani dress, and her mother meets up with some other mother that she's friends with, and that mother is talking about how her daughter has run away to go backpacking in Europe. The typical, you know, I hate college, I don't want to do this, let me go try and discover myself sort of cliche. That's what this girl is doing, and she's ended up meeting somebody out there, and they're getting pretty close to each other. But both the mothers talk about how it just doesn't, it's not the right way to live, and they're very, very controlling. And that seems to be a theme with all sort of ethnic sort of families, especially like first generation, second generation. There's a lot of pressure to be successful and to be this profession or of this stature or be making this much money because they left their country so that they could work towards that, so that they could have a stable place for their family, and they want that to continue through their children, so on and so forth. So they're very, very controlling. They're very I don't want to say it's abusive, but it's like borderline like just manipulation, forcing your kids to do everything you sort of say. And there's a lot of guilt that like gets put on you when your parents are like that. And I say this, and it's not abusive. Like, I don't want to like paint ethnic people that want their children to do well as abusive, but like when it gets to the point where you're purposely making your children feel bad, I've had the same issue with my parents, I'm not gonna lie, where if my grades were in a certain way and I didn't go and get this job, as a kid, that doesn't register as something that's like, oh yes, this is just how I mean, you ultimately internalize it after so long and go, well, this is just how it's supposed to be. But as a kid, you don't realize there's options out there, and when your family limits you to so much, it's hard. So that's why I relate to it. And I don't want to say my parents are abusive in the same way, but it definitely is like a toxic sort of relationship there. It's just not, there's no understanding, there's no room for openness and honestness because the parents don't allow it. And and it's not, like I said, it's not just ethnic families. My family was the same exact way, which is why I relate to it. And so I think that was really well done. And I had like a hot take I wanted to tweet where I was going to say that Kamala's mom is just as bad as Mark's mom. Obviously that's not entirely true, but like it's I don't know, it seems close. It's like the mental side of again, it's not abuse though. So I don't know. We can have a whole conversation about this on another day. This has nothing to do with the review. I just wanted to get that off I'm feeling, it makes me feel a certain way. Anyways, the whole point I want to get to though about that whole situation is parents suck and they don't let you do anything that you want to do when you're this age. That's just how things work sometimes, and occasionally the parents take it too far. I think, like I said, they did in this case. But her brother Amir is a really good brother, and he comes up and tries to talk to her and he goes, I'll convince our parents to let you go, don't worry. And he goes down, convinces them. The next morning, her mother comes up and says, yes, you can go, but you have to dress as the Hulk with your Abu and go with your dad. All, yeah, it would not have, I don't think realistically that's the end of the world, but she definitely just wanted to go with her friend and have a good time, and they're being overly controlling in that same way. My parents were also, I'm gonna get back into this because I need to say it. My mom and dad were the same exact way. They would not let me go hang out with a single person unless they knew their parents and done a background check on their parents. I'm not even joking. Not actually. They wouldn't do an actual background check, but they literally would not let me go out unless they had met the parents multiple times. I'm like, how are you going to ever meet somebody's parents if you don't let me go and hang out with the kid ever? I don't know. It was very not healthy, and it's, stunted my own personal growth through relationship growth, because I never was good at friends, and so now I'm having to learn all that as a young adult. So anyways, enough about me complaining about my life. That's the thing though, is like this show is great at that. This is more of this turned into more of a review and a vent session. But anyways, so she disses her Abu, says that he's a wacko, he looks crazy and green, and she doesn't want to go if that's the case. And also they tell her straight up, you can't go. And so she devises a plan with Bruno to sneak out. And basically, there's like a scene on the rooftop when she's talking to him, and she's all upset about not being able to go. And she says that, it's not really the brown girls from Jersey City that saved the world. And that's one of the lines from the trailer. It's really kind of powerful, because she feels like everything that her mom's told her and shut her down on, that like she has to follow that and she has to be that. She doesn't think that she could be a hero or save the world until Bruno really says, what do you mean? You're Kamala Khan. If you want to save the world, you're gonna save the world. And I think that's a really powerful message. And it's good to have friends like that who tell you your dreams aren't that wild. If you really want to chase it, you can. And it's such an important message, especially when your parents are the way that Kamala's parents are. But basically, she gets bullied at school. She feels like she's a nobody. The next scene after, she wakes up is her getting like bullied at school, getting hit with the dodgeball, getting, just beat up. I think it's a basketball actually or something. I couldn't tell. I think she was trying to play defense, and somebody threw the ball straight into her face. She got a bloody nose. There was also a Muslim girl who was there in a couple different shots in the classroom and in the gym, in the locker room, and she was like helping Kamala. She's one of Kamala's friends. I didn't catch her name. She was a really good friend as well. So it's good that she has those people. I really appreciate them showing that she actually has a support system, even though she doesn't have that support from her family, because that's the reality of life sometimes. And all of this hits home for me still. But anyways, they do another comic strip sort of explanation here, which I love when they do these, of how she's going to sneak out, what time she's going to sneak out, and then even when she's like running late, they like cross things out and sort of thing, so she's like a little bit late to get out of the house at dinner time, and Bruno's like waving at the door or through the window to get her attention, and she runs upstairs, and they show the little sticky note with the time crossed out. She was supposed to leave at like 6 o'clock, and she ended up leaving at like 6:11 or something like that. So then they're running late. They almost missed the bus. She said that they wanted to, in the first explanation, that they were going to jump off the bridge on their bikes and land on the top of the bus. They ended up taking the stairs. I thought that was really funny. She ends up losing her bike. So somebody definitely stole her bike. I talked to William, who actually is from Jersey. He's one of our other reviewers on this channel, and he was like, no, you definitely get your bike stolen in Jersey if you leave it anywhere. So that's realistic. I thought that was pretty funny. And so then ultimately, her like finishing touch before she leaves, she ends up grabbing those bracelets, or the bracelet. There's only one in there. I think there's supposed to be two, but she ends up just taking one of them. She takes it to the show, but as she's getting it, like the electricity flickers in the attic, and she's like, "Ah, that's kind of weird," but then moves on, obviously. And she doesn't know it has cosmic powers quite yet. But anyways, they end up getting to Comic-Con, or Avengers Con, I'm sorry, and the Star Spangled Man is playing, so that's another reference. You literally get all this merch, like Scott Lang's Ant-Man helmet, you get a shirt or a poster or something with Captain America, like with like his butt facing that way, and he's like, I guess you're welcome, or something like that. And then there's the tribute to Iron Man and Natasha. So Tony and Natasha are on that big old mural with the candles around it, and that's there as well. Literally so many references to everything. There's a Thor Pride shirt, Asgardian Pride. They talk about how on the bike ride there, or earlier, as they're doing again those little like comic strips in the different things. So they did like Valkyrie on the side of a building. They did, oh man, I'm trying to remember everything they did. They've done so good with the visuals, and it just is so good. I can't even say any other words because it's just so unique and so well done. Then like even like when she originally gets shut down to not go, they do like the little emojis in the signs in like the windows of restaurants, and signs in the side, like the crosswalk even, where it's like the message that she's sending over text to like do it in a cool visual way instead of like on their phones. And I was like, dude, this is just so cool, and I hope they keep, I'm sure they'll do it still for the rest of the series, but like that's just like a really cool, I'd love to see an actual representation of like her hitting someone and then them doing pow or something like that, something cheesy. That would be fun. I came into this show thinking that it wasn't gonna be for me, but I was like, I still gotta review it, but hopefully there's something that I can enjoy and talk about, and I'm finding that there's so much more than I expected to talk about. So yeah, then they bumped into like this other girl at school earlier in the show named Zoe, and they used to the three friends used to carpool with her to school. They don't anymore, and Bruno was suggesting that maybe they ask her to carpool there, and they're like, no, that's weird. But she's actually at the con, and she's actually in the Carol Danvers competition, and yeah, basically Kamala gets to the competition. There's all the cool stuff and merch at the event, and she goes to suit up at the event, and which I think there's actually a plot hole in this episode, where she said in her opening monologue that she was going to dress up before leaving the house, and then she gets dressed up at the con instead. So I don't know. I might have to rewatch that one to catch and see if that's what she actually says. But she, when she leaves the house, she's not dressed up. She dresses up in the bathrooms at the con, and she accidentally leaves her gloves that Bruno had made her. And they actually have a little sticker inside that say that the gloves are made by him. And you think, oh no, she's going to forget those, and then somebody's going to find them, track it to them, and she's going to get caught and in trouble. That's not even the case. I don't even know necessarily why they left those there. It might be for something down the road. I'm genuinely confused why they did that. But she gets back over to the stage. Bruno's like hyping her up to get on stage, and he's like, where's the gloves? And she's like, oh no, they're in the bathroom. I need to go get them really quick. And he's like, no, don't worry about it. Just get up there, do your best. You got this. And she struggles to get the little gauntlet open, and so she's like struggling with it, but ultimately pops it open, puts it on, and then she feels this energy surge and glow go up her arm, around her back, down her other arm, and just over her entire body. She goes, "What the heck was that?" And she asked Bruno straight up, "Did you see that?" He goes, "What are you talking about? Just get out there." And he pushes her out there onto the stage. They say, "Oh, one last contestant." And then she goes up center stage to show off her stuff. And then they're like, "Yeah, do the blast or whatever." She's going like this, and she gets all blindsided by the lights, or she's she's got stage fright or something of the sort, and she ends up like reaching out and ends up blasting with the gauntlet and shoots out these little light beams. Basically, you can compare it to the Green Lantern. It's just these cosmic blasts of energy and light, and a lot of people have the issue still that it's not comic accurate to her stretching powers. I understand their concern. However, there is Inhuman references because she's clearly not an Inhuman in this adaptation. There is an Inhuman reference. Bruno's helmet is obviously Black Bolt, who we just saw die in Multiverse of Madness. Spoilers. So she starts glowing all over. She shoots out these blasts and starts like freaking out. And then ultimately, she shoots this big old one that hits a couple things and it causes like this domino effect. And then Mjolnir, or as I like to call it, Jonathan, breaks free from the ceiling. It's like a big old Mjolnir prop that breaks off from the ceiling and starts swinging down towards the stage. And it ends up hitting, what's her name? Zoe? Yeah, Zoe. And then launches her up into the air and then back out the other way. And then she falls off. And Kamala has to use her gauntlet to project a hand out to catch her. And she catches her. She lands on the ground. So it was like trying to get her to like come to a party as like a, as a cosplayer sort of thing. Like, oh yeah, like how you order like a Spider-Man for your 3-year-old's birthday party. She was like, "Can you do parties?" Like that sort of thing. And then gets rocked by Jonathan. But Kamala saves her. And, there's overall the event turns into chaos because everything's crashed and falling over and everybody's running out. Bruno and Kamala leave and dip out of there, because they have to get home. They have to get her home so she's not in trouble, and they do get her home. But then they show again that little sticky note with the time crossed out, and she is not there at like 9:22 or whatever she wanted to be at back in her room, but she is late, and her mother is in the room, and her mother basically gives her the "I don't know who you are anymore" talk, even though at this stage, again, I'm going to bring this up, beat the dead horse one last time. As a parent at this age, your child is actively changing, and if you can't get behind that change and love the person that they want to be, then you don't really deserve to be in their life. And parents have to adjust to that, just like we're adjusting through puberty and through this like phase of life where you're figuring out what you might want to do. Even that goes through all of your 20s, really. For some people, it's even longer. Some people live with their parents till they're 40 and never figure it out. But like in this stage of your life, you're changing. You're becoming a new person. You're learning what you really like. And if your parents are going to hold you back from that and tell you that you're a bad child or you're disappointing them, it's like one thing to like say it if they've done something really bad, but to like they're pursuing their interests, that's why it feels borderline abusive for me, and why I was like, yeah, she's just as bad as Mark's mom in a different way, but like it's the same thing. So I won't talk about it anymore. I'll drop it. But yeah, it ends with her laying on her bed, messing with her powers with the gauntlet, and she says cosmic, and then it cuts to the credits. In the credits, there's even a couple references and Easter eggs. There's the Trust-a-Bro van from Hawkeye, and all Wilson Fisk's operation with the mob literally drives through the neighborhoods of Jersey, which it's not that far from New York, so it is understandable. then it cuts to a mid-credit scene with Deaver and Cleary. And Cleary was, I believe, the one in Spider-Man No Way Home interrogating Spider-Man in the room when he first got caught. When he first got interrogated, that's Cleary. And they're with the Department of Damage Control. And I think we actually talked about this on an episode of the Irresponsible Comic Book Podcast at one point. I don't know which one, so I won't try and link it. But we talked about them a little bit and about how they just try and like repair the city and figure out what the heck happened, and then they like move on and repair the city overnight. There's even supers that work for them that help repair the city, sort of thing. I'm curious to see, because we actually talked about it on that episode, if we ever see more of that group, and it sounds like we might. I don't know. At least we're getting the agents of that unit showing up in these shows regularly. So yeah, Deaver was the one who got the phone call and the message about Kamala, and then Cleary was like, oh yeah, let's bring her in. So they're definitely gonna kind of like interrogate her or look for her. I don't know if that has anything to do with what's going on down the road or whatnot, but should be interesting. Yeah, the line was like, they said, oh yeah, it's at Avengers Con, and Cleary goes, yeah, just a cosplayer with too much time on their hands. And she goes, I don't know if this is just a cosplayer. I've never seen powers like this. And so yeah, that's the whole thing. I would assume they'll be in the series more, probably as early as next episode, trying to figure out who she is, what her powers are, what she's doing, if she's good, bad, interrogator, who knows. They're gonna arrest her. I don't know. Who knows what's gonna happen. But that is the gist of this episode. I'm very excited for episode 2 and the rest of the series. I'll try not to talk about my own personal life in episodes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. But if it's relevant, I will bring it up. If I think that her parents are crossing lines, I'm going to say it, because if something's not acceptable, I need to say something. And that's just how it's going to be. So I will leave you with that. That is my official review for the first episode of Miss Marvel. Hopefully you aren't scared of who I am as a person, because I was traumatized as a child, but that's life. Anyways, I'm going to leave you with that. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you when we do episode 2. Till then, peace.